Thanks, Amba, for joining me with all those details. And now, viewers, moving on. U.S. President Donald Trump has reacted to the Russian President Putin's reported statement that U.S. sanctions won't impact the Russian economy. When asked by a reporter in White House on Thursday about Russian President Vladimir Putin's reaction to the U.S. sanctions that they won't cause any major harm to the country's economy, Trump said, "I'm glad he feels that way. I'll let you know about it in 6 months from now. Let's see how it all works out. Let's listen in."
Know about it in 6 months from now. Okay, let's see how it all works out. I'm glad he feels that way. That's good. I'll let you know about it in 6 months from now.
I have my colleague Aditya Vadhavan joining me with more details. Now, Aditya, another interesting statement coming from Donald Trump. What can you tell us?
Well, absolutely. Vaishali, this statement, the way he has spoken during the press conference in the White House, completely shows his frustration that he hasn't been able to convince Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop this bloody war on Ukraine. It has been going for now about 4 to 4.5 or 5 years continuously, and so many innocent Ukrainians have been killed in this war. And still the Russian side maintains that it will stop the war. However, there are some preconditions to if Russia intends to stop the war, it has to this has to go that Ukraine cannot be put into NATO, and there are several other conditions to which Putin wants that all the sides should agree. However, at this juncture, this deadlock remains to be seen. It remains to be stay, in fact, and it is very unlikely that in the near future we could expect this Russia-Ukraine war to stop anytime. Vaishali.
Aditya, stay on with me because there's more breaking news coming in. Now, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt has made a statement on U.S. sanctions against 2 Russian oil companies. He said, and I quote, "If you read the sanctions and look at them, they're pretty hefty. I saw some international news out of China this morning that they're scaling back oil purchases from Russia." Let's listen in.
If you read the sanctions and look at them, they're pretty hefty. And I saw some international news out of China this morning that they're scaling back oil purchases from Russia. We know India has done the same at the request of the president. The president has also pushed European countries, our allies, to please stop their purchases of Russian oil as well. So it's full court press for sure. And we expect that these sanctions are going to do harm, as the Secretary of Treasury said yesterday.
My colleague is back with me, viewers. Now, Aditya, what can you tell us about this latest statement by Karoline Leavitt?
Well, this latest, Vaishali, to see this latest statement by Karoline Leavitt completely shows the tilt towards U.S. President Donald Trump. He has been asking the countries to stop, importing oil from Russia. As per his version, this money is giving Russia fuel to wage a war against Ukraine. However, the flip side, if you see, all the major European Union countries are continuously buying oil from Russia unstopped. And, indeed, it is a moment to reckon with, Vaishali, as to how whether, Trump has been pressuring India as well to stop its oil imports from Russia. However, it needs to be seen, he has been repeatedly saying that India will cut its oil, imports from Russia by the year end. However, there is no substantial proof to, justify that statement of President Trump. However, he wants that all the countries should cease buying oil from Russia. But this seems highly unlikely because Russia has been a major oil exporter to many countries, and it needs to be seen from here on how things unfold in this scenario. Vaishali, back to you.
Aditya, stay on with me because we've got another statement coming in from White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, who's also made comments on the Russia-Ukraine war. She said, and I quote, "The president is extremely motivated by the success of his peace deal in the Middle East to get things done, and he wants this war to come to an end." The press secretary, however, said that the meeting between Trump and Putin is not completely off the table, but that the meeting should have a tangible, positive outcome. So, Aditya, a tangible, positive outcome, she says. What can you tell us?
Well, absolutely. The possible tangible solution is refers that, recently we have seen, the meeting between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin was postponed due to several reasons, So this tangible solution means that there has to be some way so that, Russia stops its war on Ukraine. Whether if it means imposing hardest of the hardest sanctions on Russia, USA for it. However, the backtrack diplomacy is being done with Russia so that it stops the war. However, it is very unlikely that Russia will heed to the demands of the Western countries and the United States of America. Vaishali.
Aditya, stay on with me now. We're moving on, viewers.